I've started a weird sort of arms race with TJ Klune and Fannie Flagg. I reviewed The House in the Cerulean Sea, then Fried Green Tomatoes, then Summer Beyond the Sea, then The Wonder Boy of Whistle Stop, then In the Lives of Puppets, so naturally I needed another Fannie Flagg book, so let's talk about Can't Wait to Get to Heaven by Fannie Flagg. Can't Wait to Get to Heaven follows honestly many people. Fannie Flagg is really good at writing omniscient voice that jumps around to follow multiple people and tells us about their histories without ever straying too far from the plot or having the story get boring or too complicated. But Can't Wait to Get to Heaven starts with Eleanor Shinpizzle, an 80-something-year-old woman, up in her fig tree when she comes across a wasp nest and falls out of her tree and gets attacked by wasps and dies. Hey! I interrupt this video to tell you about my book, Phantoms of the Inferno, a high fantasy story with elemental magic systems, evil kings, espionage, and mass extinction events galore. If that sounds interesting, you should read Phantoms of the Inferno on Scribblehub and Wattpad. I put up a new chapter every Sunday and have the links down in the descriptions. Now, back to the video. After that, we meet a lot of people. Eleanor's neighbors, her niece Norma, Norma's husband Mackie, their daughter Laura, the radio show hosts who know Eleanor, the local mortician, Eleanor's more or less adoptive grandson Luther Griggs, and Eleanor's sister Ida. And it's meeting Ida that's really out there because Ida has been dead for years, but the story still follows Eleanor even after she's died. We follow her as she wakes up in a strange hospital and starts wandering around when she gets in an elevator similar to the one in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and ends up at the bottom of a staircase where she meets Ida and is led up towards heaven. And while all this is going on, the town is in a frenzy over Eleanor's death. She was a really nice eccentric lady who helped a lot of people in her community. Sometimes she gave good advice, like when she told her neighbor Tot to get a kitten after her emotional breakdown, which is genuinely good advice. Kittens are great. Or when she took Luther Griggs in when he was a boy and gave him a safe space away from his abusive father. Or when she let her grandniece Dina stay with her when she was sick. Or the things she's done with the community, like having a Sunset Watchers Club or the local Easter egg hunt in her yard.
People stared at the sun, attempting to blind themselves.
Basically, Eleanor's touched a lot of people's lives, and a lot of them are devastated that she's gone. And as sweet as that was, it also kind of bugged me, because Eleanor's neighbor, Ruby, got the news she was dead from one of her nurse colleagues who totally broke HIPAA in telling Ruby, and then Ruby told everyone, like Luther Griggs was on his truck leaving the county when he heard over the radio about Eleanor's death. That's how fast the news spread, and all of this was at the same time Eleanor's family, her grandnieces, Dina and Laura, were learning about her death. I grew up in a small town. I understand they do not operate the same way the rest of the world does. I can also be annoyed at the weird physics small towns operate under.
That town is so weird.
Another thing that wore on me as the book went on was Fannie Flagg's long-winded writing style. You could start a scene in Eleanor's kitchen where her neighbors are feeding her cat and end it having learned about Tot's entire family, her problems with her children, all their accidental pregnancies, and Tot's emotional breakdown kitten. It's all interesting and a great way to get us to know these characters. Like, we learn in one of Norma's detours that she's the kind of lady who keeps earrings in an earthquake kit, and that tells us a lot about her. The things you think are vital in a state of emergency tell others about you, but at the same time, it can get frustrating getting pulled away from the plot like that, and it's something that nowadays most authors can't get away with. The publishing industry is interested in tighter plots than that, and it's a difficult balance going off plot without completely losing it. But Fannie Flagg mostly does it really well. These are the chapters where Eleanor meets her maker. Like, literally, she gets to heaven and Ida takes her to God's house. And as it turns out, for Eleanor, God's house is neighbor Dorothy's house, a woman who lived in Elmwood and ran a radio station decades before. And when Eleanor gets inside, she meets God, who's taken the form of neighbor Dorothy and Dorothy's husband, Raymond. As it turns out, there are two grand creators, and the chapter with Dorothy and Raymond were so fun. First of all, every room in their house has an animal in it. There's a dog and cats and birds who are all described as fat and happy, sleeping or chirping, which I just love. If heaven exists, it has happy cats. And Dorothy and Raymond are also really pleasant and friendly. They chat with Eleanor, taking turns asking questions. Eleanor asks them stuff like how they came up with fingerprints and what came first, the chicken or the egg. And Raymond actually gives pretty complex scientific answers, which is not at all the mood of this book, but makes his character all the more likable. And Dorothy makes Eleanor a caramel cake. And Eleanor also gets to meet other people, the man from Elmwood who died the day before, and her personal hero, Thomas Edison. I already have my next Fascinating Figures video recorded, so I guess I'll have to do Thomas Edison for my Fascinating Figure videos after that one. Anyway, the best part about Raymond and Dorothy is their message. They love people and the world and life. They say life is a gift and what they want from people is for them to be happy. And when Eleanor asks about the sins she's committed, like trying to get revenge on Luther Griggs when he was a kid, that led to the two of them becoming friends. They tell her it's fine. Everyone makes mistakes, and it's what we take away from those mistakes that really matters. Overall, it's a very soothing message, which is the overall vibe of the book, and heaven.
Heaven.
And while Eleanor is chatting with Dorothy and Raymond, the living people are still in a tizzy. Some of Eleanor's neighbors are already planning her funeral. The mortician has pulled out Eleanor's file, people are planning what food to make or clothes to wear to the funeral, and Eleanor's grandniece, Laura, puts everything in motion for her daughter to have a sleepover so she can fly home and be with her parents. And I have to say two things about Laura I really liked. The first is she adopted a Chinese girl and named her Apple, and there's this one sentence about Nora wearing a Proud Grandma shirt with Apple's face on it that makes me choke up. It's just so cute. And the other thing was a side plot about Laura watching Eleanor's cat while she and Norma were out of town and losing him. So Mackie and Norma had to go out and find an identical cat to replace Sunny with. Again, it's these side plots that are a lot of fun and tell us so much about these characters and this town and world. These are the chapters where Eleanor comes back to life. She says goodbye to Dorothy and Raymond, then she's lifted out of heaven, hovers above the hospital for a while, then she wakes back up in the hospital, scaring Nora, Linda, Mackie, and the nurse into early graves themselves.
It's alive!
Once Eleanor is declared alive, there's even more chaos. Now news has to spread that she's not dead, the hospital has to figure out what's wrong, and the hospital lawyer has to stop Norma and Eleanor from being able to sue. And this book did a good job in making both lawyer characters slimy and unlikable. One works for the hospital and doesn't want Eleanor to sue, and another is an ambulance chaser who tries to convince them to sue. And they're both conniving, manipulative, and try to withhold information from Eleanor and her family. And they both get wake-up calls, which was the really fun thing about these chapters. Eleanor spends a few days in the hospital with everyone trying to figure out what happened. Then she gets to go home and spend Easter with her friends and family. And after that, a lot starts coming together. The chapters start getting shorter and jumping around to different characters. And I'll be honest, I couldn't quite keep straight all the character names, but it was still fun reading about them. Having such short chapters made reading them go by really fast, so there wasn't really time to get frustrated about the amount of characters and not being able to remember who's who.
Who are you?
But I was able to remember the main cast, and it was so fun and satisfying seeing how things turned out for them. We get to see Luther Griggs discover she's alive when he drives by her house and sees her on her porch. That scares him, but he also wants to appreciate Eleanor more. So a few months later, he marries his girlfriend, Bobby Jo, like Eleanor told him to. And we get to see Linda end up with Eleanor's neurologist when she sets them up. We get to see Norma get a job when her doctor tells her she needs to distract herself from her stress and anxiety. We get to see Tot retire. We get to see the orderly who found the cake Dorothy sent Eleanor home with give it to her mom, and the cake curing her arthritis.
I'm old, so I'm the victim!
We get to see the saga of the gun Ruby found in Eleanor's literal dirty laundry, and that was actually funny to me, because a bunch of people kept asking where Eleanor got a gun, but the thing is, she could have just bought it. Guns in America are not hard to come by, and then Mackie just throws it in a river.
Let's get this swim going!
But as it turns out, Eleanor didn't buy the gun. She got it from her friend and neighbor from back when she lived on a farm, Louise, and her daughter Polly. And their backstory is that Polly has Down syndrome, and when she was 12 and her mother ran to the store, a farmhand thought she would be an easy target to assault. and as it turns out, she put up a fight and ended up killing him. So to keep Polly from being taken away, Eleanor helps Louise bury the body, then she takes the gun with the intention of confessing to the murder if they're ever found out. But they're not. Eleanor, Louise, and Polly all get to go on and live long, happy lives. And the book ends with Eleanor dying for real. About a year after her first death, she starts forgetting things, and it becomes apparent she has dementia. So Norma and Mackie make the decision to put her in an assisted living facility. But the day she's supposed to leave her home, Ruby goes over to her house and discovers Eleanor died peacefully in her sleep. Then in the epilogue, we get to see Eleanor return to heaven and be reunited with her friends and family and husband Will. And it was so good and made me cry, and Eleanor's death happened in the perfect place, because if it would have happened any sooner, the book would have ended up in my did not finish made me sad list.
Oh, I'm crying. I'm so sad.
Overall, Can't Wait to Get to Heaven is a good book. A few things you could take away from it are the characters. I know I say that a lot, but Fannie Flagg is good at writing fun, memorable characters. And there's also the gods and the atmosphere. This book has a really slow, cozy, low-stakes atmosphere that more and more fantasy readers are drawn to. But it can be hard writing fantasy and creating a plot with enough stakes to validate magic. And stake creep is real. So if you're looking for a book to help show you how to write cozy or just keep you grounded, this is the book to read.
I'm a writer.
And this book is also a great example when it comes to writing gods. Dorothy and Raymond were so great. They were cozy and friendly, and you could see how Eleanor's lived experiences and expectations shaped them. If you want to write a unique take on a god, writing one who is compassionate, loving, friendly is one we don't see enough in fantasy. And letting your deity be omniscient, all-knowing, all-creating, while still being shaped by your characters is a fun, unique take. Mostly though, this book, like most of Fannie Flagg's work, can teach you about writing characters and doing good character exploration. Very few people will be able to veer from the plot like Fannie Flagg does. It's not what publishers want to see, and it's very hard to get right. Even this book veers off a little too far from the plot with a few backstories. But not every anecdote or backstory needs to make it into your final draft. Who are your characters without the plot? What lessons have they learned? What lessons did they need to learn multiple times? Who are they when they're alone? Writing anecdotes about your characters will help you understand them and make them feel more fleshed out and real.
You're a real person.
And that's all I got. Can't Wait to Get to Heaven is probably my favorite Fannie Flagg book. It's grounding, and Eleanor is such a fun character to visit over and over again. Plus, it has recipes in the back. It's hard to go wrong with a book with recipes. So go out and read Can't Wait to Get to Heaven by Fannie Flagg.